This is Ryan Vanderplatz, and this is your Tekla PowerFab What's New webinar for version 2025. Before we get into the features, we need to cover the standard disclaimer. So the information being presented here on product features and functionalities is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon to make a purchasing decision. Trimble's under no obligation to deliver any future products, features, or functionalities within a specific time frame, if at all, and release dates and content are subject to change at Trimble's sole discretion. So with that out of the way, today's presenters will be primarily Ian Struthers and Dan Lopez, who are both senior product managers for Tekla PowerFab and Tekla PowerFab Go. And again, I'm your host, Ryan Vanderplatz. So Tekla PowerFab 2025 is a really feature-rich version. We're really excited about presenting the content. First off, we've created a Tekla connector that connects Tekla Structures and Tekla PowerFab and allows you to share information between the software in a much more seamless way. I'll spare you the details right now and let Dan talk about that. And then in addition, we have improvements to the advanced bill of material or prelim list, depending on what region you're in, the workflow there. So we've improved how ABMs handle revisions and changes, and we feel we've done some great work there as well. Then we'll let Ian talk about next generation production planner. We're releasing features that allow people to organize and plan their shop in a much more powerful way, and we're really excited about launching the first phase of this product development in a version 2025. And then lastly, as always, we have general improvements. So because we have a lot to present, we'll let the guys get right into it. So take it away.
Okay, thank you. Hello everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you to this presentation of Tekla PowerFab 2025. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Ian, for joining me here today. This release represents a significant advancement, introduces innovative workflows and streamlined processes for our subscription users, as well as valuable enhancements for every user in general. All right, so let's get started with the Tekla connector. Before describing what it is and what it does, we usually describe a user story of why these features are important. In this case, with the Tekla Structures connector, I personally could give you many examples. And just in my experience in fabrication, I was not happy many times. I was finding myself fixing issues, incorrect grades, missing information, missing files that I require for fabrication. I was, fortunate enough to have the people on the same building and just go and clarify things and then get the files most of the time the same day. But I know that that's not the case for every company. So I do believe that the Tekla connector will solve a lot of those angry thoughts that we as fabricators sometimes have. It's very important to get back at the end of each project and compile not only what went well, but also what it didn't. And look back not only at the visible results, but to the major pains and how are those translated to the day-to-day operations. And we know by communicating with our users and friends in the industry that unfortunately these problems that I describe are more common than they should. Therefore, a lot of our efforts at Trimble are, and probably will be for the very near future, always be focusing on enhancing how the different personas interact, for a common goal. Because at the end of the day, we all have the common goal. We want this build to be done. So we gotta find ways in the software to work more as a team, and this is one of those. This being said, let's get started with some simple and practical scenarios of what the Tekla connector is trying to solve. So let's talk about the first persona that we are trying to help. In this example, we are talking about the purchase manager, whose name is Orlando, and he needs to make sure to buy the material, optimize, and correct at the first attempt. Now, the problems that he faces between many is that every time that he tries to combine the material or optimize it in PowerFab, he finds great discrepancies that he has to be fixing, right? And what this means is he finds some plates that are 3/8, some of them are A36, some of them are GR36, like irregular grades being utilized that means the same, or he goes and find a beam that is tagged to be A53 instead of A992, grades that it doesn't even exist. So he finds himself spending a lot of time fixing those things, and then making sure that when he imports a new or someone else imports into the bill of materials a new submittal, it doesn't set back those grades to the incorrect value that was there before. Another example that we are trying to help in this scenario is Jolene, who is a production manager who needs to make sure that the bill of materials are always up to date in the shop projects, right? She needs to make sure that we are helping the shop by providing the most up-to-date information every single time. Now, some of the problems that she faces is that they subcontract detailing, and it's hard to control the order and the accuracy of the submittals that are received by email or FTP, right? Especially when it could be that they receive 2 or 3 submittals during the night, or them together. The order of the submittals actually matters. Someone following up, especially when it's about email, they need to make sure that some of those emails don't went to the spam folder, or they ignore some of those, and then they never have the latest information. So if there is not good communication, some issues may arise. Her personnel constantly get lost between submittals from several detailers, because also they have several subcontractors that working in different projects, and they lose track of the files that are imported and the files that are not imported. Now, their solution, the Tekla Structures Connector. This tool really enhances collaboration. It allows to create a linear workflow between detailer and fabrication that goes all the way from ABM to the finalization of the actual project. In this first stage, I'm gonna leave aside the ABM stage because I want to talk about that on its own. So I'm gonna be showing you all the other parts that you can see here on the screen, like the fabricator import guidelines, validation of the model, submittals, all of that good stuff. In Tekla PowerFab 2025, a new standard was set for detailing and fabrication, caused by an unrivaled workflow between Tekla Structures and Tekla PowerFab through the Tekla connector. Let's talk about how PowerFab gets benefited out of it. It all starts on the address book. If you go in Tekla PowerFab 2025 to the address book and go to your detailers, let me open this one as an example, you will see that there is an info sharing box. In this, you can select with this detailer in particular, what information do you want to share between your shapes, grade sizes, which is basically your shapes, grade sizes catalog in Tekla PowerFab. It not only sends the list of the materials and grades and sizes that you have in here, it has a relation that and how they can be utilized. So it allows your detailer to select the right grade for a specific shape, as I'll show you in a moment. And then we also have the ability to send the finished maintenance database that you have in PowerFab. So it will allow your detailer to call the finishes as you want them to be called. And then ABM settings, we talk about that one in the next feature because that's a topic that is big enough to be its own thing. Now, once you decide to share this, there is a underground process running in the automated events that basically is updating this information constantly and submitting that. So your detailers or whoever, any detailers that you decide to share that information with, it will be getting the latest information as often as you put your automated event to run. Now, in Tekla Structures, I'll give you a preview of what that information is utilized for. Have in mind that this extensive workflow will be showing more details in a future webinar that will be happening soon. For now, it's just to make you and help you understand the reach of how far this goes and how helpful can it be. So once the fabricator was sharing his information with the detailer, at the beginning of the project, obviously it doesn't have to be at the end or when you are this far in the project, but it could be. It doesn't really matter that much. The detailer will be able to select the fabricator that he's working with. and he will be basically able to see only the fabricators that decided to work with him, because those decided to share their information with him. So that's where the shop comes in. Once that is set, then Tekla Structures can identify if there is something out of the standards and parameters that were shared, right? So for instance, I'm gonna select the whole model in here and open the validation of the model. Now, in a huge, massive model, probably it's a good practice to be doing this in pieces as you are modeling, so you don't have to be affecting numbering or anything like that. But for this example, I'll just go ahead and show it for everything. Now, everything shows pretty much mostly okay, although there is a few problems in there. Let me actually show only the materials that have some issues in there. And again, just as an example, you can see here that there are some HSS that has a material A36. That's we all know that's not a grade for HSS. So when I select this, and obviously I can select the ones that share the same problem, right? I can use the filters here on the top, or I can go and say all those HSS A36, that's not the right grade, so I can go and you can see that it's highlighted in here. I'll just go ahead and choose the correct grade for those and modify that, and that will take care of those issues. I can also take care at the same time of other issues like the beams that share the same problem. We all know that's one of the most common ones, probably beams being highlighted as A36 when they are A992, so I can go and fix that as well. And then the last one is this finish that says golf, and the right finish I think is GLB, and modify that. Now as I refresh this, you can see that now there is nothing that has any issues on it. So it's really helpful. You have no idea how well it feels to import something that will just come clean entirely to Tekla PowerFab without any error messages or any translations needed for that. Now let's talk about the submittals, which is a big portion also of what the Tekla Structures connector can do and help you with. As you can see here under the Tekla PowerFab ribbon, there is two new options as well. There are submit to fabricator and submittal history. Now when I click in submittal history, it actually pop up here in my second screen. Let me pull this over. I already had a submittal that I did for estimating, and I put some notes in there, and it's uploaded into the project, and nothing it's been happening to that submittal. I'll explain what that means. Now the reason why it's identifying that it was a submittal for estimating and all of that, it's because it was created using the submit to fabricator tool. When I click on this is a new and easier way for detailers to submit. It doesn't matter what it's the final purpose of that submittal. In the past, they have to go through different exports depending on the purpose that the fabricator wanted to use those files for. You can see that is one place to submit for estimating, procurement or ABM, drawings for external approval, or fabrication or production control, as we call it in Tekla PowerFab. So it's one place. You can select the type of submittal, and it's used from there. The other thing that it's important to know is you can, as usually, export the files and send them over in any way that you prefer. But if you link this Trimble, like in this case, this model is linked to the same Trimble Connect project that I have in Tekla PowerFab, and that enables a completely different and evolved way of communicate. Just for instance, for example, that submittal that I showed you here in Tekla Structures, let me go to Tekla PowerFab, and you can see that it's in here waiting for me. So there is another process that is running on the background. You don't have to be worrying about it. That is just checking if there is any new submittals pending for you to take care of. So in this case, this is the one that it was sent by the detailer. You can see that it has the notes that they put in there. Now, just as an example, I know this is just a partial of the model, and I haven't done the import, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tell them to submit everything instead of use a partial. Obviously, you can go through the process and check and import and then decide. But in this, just to kind of give you a different example, I'm gonna reject this and say, please submit the entire model now. And I can save these notes. You can see that because this was rejected, once these changes are saved, it's gone. You don't have to be worrying about those. This is only showing the ones that still require an action. And if I go back to Tekla Structures and open the submittal history, and again pull the screen to this side of the screen, now I see the note from the fabricator. He's asking me to submit the entire model now, and he rejected that submittal. So I don't have to wait till the next day to tell them that's not what I wanted and to submit something different. So I'll show you this real quick as an example here. Again, we'll expand this workflow in an entire webinar, but just to give you a quick scenario, I'm gonna go with the same estimating. Say I'm submitting all objects. Obviously, you can do a selection there as well, and I'm gonna call this webinar 2. Just for instance, so say this is all. I can validate at this point, as you see. I can export only, go as a detailer and maybe double check that is what I wanted to do and then upload after the fact, or you can at the same time export and submit. And again, more details will be included in the future webinar. So if I just go and export and submit, it will go through the process, in this case, of creating the file. And then as soon as that is finished, it will just start up the uploading process. Okay, and automatically will pop up the submittal history screen, which let me just drag it here to this screen, and there's my new submittal. Now if I go to PowerFab, it's not here by default. As I told you, it runs every often time. I think I have it as every 15 minutes. You can make it more often if you wanted to. But just for the example of this webinar, I want to show you that I can, in any time, just sync my submittals, and it will go and find if there is any pending submittals for me. Otherwise, as soon as it goes and detects it, it will show up as a new submittal on the screen as the one before. So it's a quick process, and you can see that it found that new submittal. And then from here, it's very simple to just go in through the normal casual import process that goes, and based on the type of submittal that this is, it will open the right module, right? So in this case, it was an estimating submittal. So just to show you real quick, I will go and pull the estimating screen, where you can fill in the typical information. Again, it's a very good practice to start working with the Trimble Connect project from the very beginning. Be connected at that project with your detailer, so you guys can share this workflow of submittals, transmittals in a more simple way. Again, the sending of files can be still utilized, but this is just way more simple and more secure and with more communication available through the process. So if that's the case, like in this case, I can go and select that project, load the information, and just bring the file into my project. The last thing that I also want to recommend here to fabricators is if you want to start using the Tekla connector, the first thing that you gotta do is go to your shape grade sizes, do some cleaning in there, make sure that you have the grades that you want to use, make sure that you are sending the cleanest information possible to your detailer, so he can work with that and have a better experience about this. Now let's talk about ABM Trailblazing Workflow. For this example, the persona is Melanie, who is a purchasing manager and always needs to stay on top of every project needs. From the very beginning when you receive an ABM all the way till the end of the installation. Now, this is becoming more difficult every day. Why? Well, first of all, there is a high demand of steel, and she's been getting constant pressure from project managers of the projects to receive revisions of ABM because there is elevated prices from steel. There are longer rolling dates availability, and they want her to make the most savings as possible. So she needs to keep updating and checking the ABM, which is something that usually was not the case. Usually it was a one-time receive and then purchase, and then you forget about that until you receive shop drawings. Not anymore. Times are changing, so she needs to get updating the ABM, and that it's becoming extremely hard as the modeling progresses because it's hard to understand in their case what are changes and what is just a part that was detailed and that suffered some modifications because of that, but it's not a truly ABM change. Now, more problems to this. What is happening is when she imports that into Tekla PowerFab, she see a limited view of the changes in the import log, but also because all the information that she's receiving, that list is, even it's hard to read with all the contamination that she's receiving, it's pretty much impossible to really take a look at every line and identify what are truly changes and what is just a detailed part. The combining module, which now it's renamed to advanced build module, is used as stop for that list. So really, she was just receiving it in there, but then she has to continue everything in purchase, and there was a disconnection there that it was making things for her very hard sometimes. And then she tried all kinds of workarounds using production control, but to see if she could do any advantage of using the change management in there. But it was not getting any better. It was still very complicated to handle because there will be at the end even parts that were not detailed at all. So she ended up with a contaminated production control job and a very unhappy crew waiting for the information that they need to know what material to process for in the shop floor. Now, how do we help to solve those issues? The ABM Trailblazing Workflow, it's several steps that will make your life easier in that stage. It all begins with the Tekla Structures connector, which now we come up with a fully redesigned workflow between Tekla Structures and Tekla PowerFab exclusively, with tools in both sides that will help detailers and fabricators to make their life easier, not just with an easier communication, but with steps and red lights and green lights to help you identify when something needs attention on the process, as you will see in a moment. Change management is not only a production control tool anymore. It was very successful there. We wanted to extend the success of this to the advanced build module. So now it will be available there, and with the help of the Tekla Structures connector and the procurement workflow, avoiding sending the grown things, this will be a very successful implementation of change management itself. The module is also, remember, connected now to purchasing and inventory. It's not a stationary module anymore. It's where you import a bill of material and just help to catch the changes and then go and try to identify them somewhere else. It will help you because there is links and will help you to identify those links for you and even to take the best decisions based on how this is combined. And I'll demonstrate that in just a bit. The fabricators now have a very good chance to send their ABM settings to tell the detailer what they will consider an actual ABM change in terms of length changes. This is a setting that I will recommend fabricators to do a very well thought, to be considerate, but also don't be too scared. And you know, all these things that we as fabricators always complain about, receiving things that are a few inches changes, things like that. This is a rare opportunity to send that information to detailers and help them recognize what is an actual valuable change, or I mean, not valuable, but something that has to be contemplated at the purchasing stage for the ABM. But let's take a look. In Tekla PowerFab 2025, the advanced bill of material workflow got a serious glow up. Clients can now enjoy a significantly enhanced level of project oversight during this crucial purchasing phase, with detailed information presented with remarkable ease. It is a seamless and sophisticated approach to this early stage project and purchasing management process designed between Tekla Structures and Tekla PowerFab. But let's take a look. It all begins under Maintenance, Advanced Build Company Standards, where we have a new tab that is called the ABM Settings. Now this section is divided in two different areas, the procurement numbering and the change detection. This data right here is being shared with your detailer as part of the info sharing option, and it will help you and help them identify what changes truly matter for you at the ABM stage. So it is important to spend some good time analyzing this. The procurement numbering will help you reducing the amount of marks that you receive that are super similar, and it will help you to handle better things like bundling, as an example. The change detection area, it is to identify changes that actually matter at that stage. We know that at the ABM stage, uh, you will have a link that is center to center of the column or close to that, and when there is connections, the length of the beams will be reduced, and that's not truly an ABM change. So by defining a parameter here on the beam shortening tolerance, for example, you will ensure that the changes that you are receiving are not just because there was a connection put between column and beam, but also because there was a true change at the ABM stage or design change. Same for the standing tolerance, where usually fabricators will tend to be a little bit shorter because they want to know if the piece grows to make sure that they still have enough material considering the raw material that they are purchasing for that. And you have the same options for plates. Now, once this is set, that will be shared in the background, as we said, to the detailers, and we'll take a look into that in a moment. Let's start by importing this submittal that we received here and going through the purchasing area, where we also have a lot of changes now. Since this is coming from the submittals tools, we can directly from here do the import. I have already a project management job created from this, so I don't have to retype all the information. I'll just go ahead and load that, and as you can see, that's already connected to a Trimble Connect project, so that's where the model file will be located. And I already have a set of properties. It's similar to when you import an estimating, where you can do a mapping as well of specific fields that you are bringing from the model. Since this is a new project, I don't really have to go and take a look at any changes. Everything is a new addition, so I'll just go ahead and continue with the import. And once everything is processed, it will automatically change the submittal status to save or imported, and that will be reflected in Tekla Structures. You can still put notes if you want it, like all the good, just to see how that looks in Tekla Structures later in the video. So I'll save that, and then let's go and take a look into the job. The first thing that I want you to notice is that there is columns now for the quantity linked to either unpurchased material, in the case of the splicing packages, requisition, if I move further to the right, quantity linked to inventory, on order, linked to inventory in stock, linked to production control, and allocated and not allocated, which are legacy fields at this point. Now, those fields are there because, as I mentioned, this is linked to purchasing orders. So if I go to the advanced build and run a combine, I'm going to run it for a shape in a specific, just so it's faster. I'm going to go ahead and do my Y flange beams, which is the majority of profiles that I have here anyway. And I'll give it a few seconds here. Okay, so now we have the results, and you can see that the results are related to inventory and warehouse, and the options now look very similar to what we see in the other modules, because now this is actually linked to those areas. We have a few materials that are not purchased, and we could do them in a splice package or something later. For now, we'll skip those. Just for this example, those are not relevant anyway. So I'll go ahead and save the materials that are in here. I'm not going to really play much with it. It's not part of what I want to show today. So I'll go ahead and save the displayed results and close. And as you can see now, it's asking me if I want to send this to requisitions or purchase orders. Now, for this example, and really for what I want to demonstrate here today, I'm going to skip the requisition stage and just go ahead and put it in a purchase order. And really, I will do something real quick. It's not really relevant to the example at all, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill this information real quick. Select my vendor and save this. Okay, now that that's done, if I go to the shapes here and filter only the Y flange, you can start to see the quantity link in here. If I move further to the right, as I said, you see materials linked to the inventory, materials that are on order. And even if I go here and select any of these parts, I can click on the links option here on the bottom right, and this shows me the length of the bar that this is linked to, and then the length of the part. So this is a very interesting view. It's a new screen that, as you can see, not only shows you the details of the bar, but also the details of the part. So this will help you later, as you will see, to take decisions of if you have enough material to keep a combination or to remove a link when you import changes. As an example, you can see here that we have basically three foot drops, so we can play with that length that we have extra on top of that part. If this grows, as an example, we'll be able to see that and take the decision and allow for those changes to happen. Now let me close this and let's go and show you now in the Tekla structure side something real quick. Let me start by going to the Tekla PowerFab tab and real quick show you on there the procurement control screen. Let me pull that into this side. Here under the settings, as you can see, by default it has use the fabricator settings, so it has the values that I send through the info sharing in my profile for my company. So that's what it will be taken into consideration. And what that means is that I'm going to move this to the side for a moment. If I zoom in and highlight this column, and let me go into the properties, and I'm going to say this actually goes to 48 foot 4 inches, just a very tiny change to give you a couple of different scenarios. And then I'm actually gonna go and say that this column here grows to, I'm gonna go ahead and say 50 footers. And I'll do one more change in here, saying that maybe this beam here will change to 24 by 84. Modify that. And then also on top of that, I know that these pieces on this side of the model are new. They were not included in the other submittal that I just imported into PowerFab. So if I select that again and go back and refresh the procurement control screen, you will see that the detailer first is being alerted of a couple of things, right? First, there is a couple of new, a few new items. There is also a modified item that went from 2476 to 2484, and if I scroll down, I will see also that there is items that were already submitted, which is everything else in the past, everything else that was submitted before. Now, just to show this more clear, this has a model selection, so you could help yourself by going and saying things like, yeah, so let me see what's the items that were modified. And then I can select that and select that in the model, so the detailer can clearly identify things like that. I can also go and say, let me see items that were submitted already. Right? So as an example, I can go and see what is submitted, and then select that in the model. And it shows you clearly what has been submitted. So it's really a very visual tool that will allow you detailers to identify and have really an input into this ABM stage, where they were basically just trying to go through the detailing stage as fast as possible with no errors. And when they are asked for revisions on ABM, it was really not much that they could do. So this is really helping them and helping them to help fabricators as well. Now, this being said, let me just go ahead and submit these items, and then I'll go ahead and show you in the PowerFab side of things how that looks like. Let me show you something real quick. From the job in advanced view, let me pull the model interface. This is also a new addition. Now you can launch the Trimble Connect model for the ABM stage, and it's up in here into my second screen. Let me pull it to this side. And if I go and colorize, there is a few options in here. The most relevant, in my opinion, is material status, because I now can, from the ABM stage, go and see what's not been purchased, what's on order, what's stock, and then what's linked to production control when that happens. When you actually get a submittal into fabrication, you'll be able to see what's already linked to that stage. Let me go and refresh the submittals and then show you what it's available in there. Okay, so once we have the submittal here, this is one of the best options that we put into this trailblazing workflow, which is if you get a revision, I can go and bring that into the job. Let me real quick go and select the actual job. Oh, it's already there. So let me just go and pull the import, add and replace as we always recommend. I'll use the same properties that I used before. And then hopefully you are already familiar with this screen. It's the change summary screen. Just a few differences that I want to highlight in comparison with the one screen that we use in production control. As you can see, this is only showing by default one change, which is critical changes only, and that's based on the setup or settings that we establish on the ABM settings that I show you at the beginning of this demonstration. So based on those settings, obviously a change in profile, it's a critical change. So that's why if you take a look here on the bottom right corner, this went from 24 by 76 to 24 by 84, and therefore it changed the ABM number as well. So that's being reflected in here. If you click on the link options, it shows the ABM reserve details screen. You can see that we purchased a 30 feet 24 by 76 for that one. Obviously that will not help us because this is a completely different size. So when we allow this change, the links will be broken. Now that's really not the only thing that it's being imported in here. As you can see, this is being filtered by that. If I go and show you the additions, this shows you all those assemblies that were new that are going to be imported as a completely new part that was not being imported in the first submittal. There is another options like updates and deletes. In this case, we don't really have any deleted pieces, so there's nothing to show in that regard. But then here on the critical changes, if I go to actually all changes, you can see that there is also a change in particular here of a beam that went from 26 foot to 3/4 to 26 4. I think it's one of those columns that I changed the length. It was not a critical change, that's why it's filtering that out, and assuming that you will allow that change, it doesn't really matter, and it's not gonna broke the links anyway because we have a 55 footer that 10 by 49 beam that we are using, and we are cutting those pieces. I can actually customize the grid and include the drop, so you don't have to make calculations here. But this should be enough. Even with the grow of that piece, it's not going to be a problem. So when we allow that change, it will just update those links into the inventory and all those parts, or the purchase order, wherever this part is actually located. So it is a very, very helpful screen. Let me go back to the critical changes only, and then the last thing that I want to show you here is the selection in model. Let me put this on the other side of the screen. And so the initial view by default filters only the beam that it's being displayed as the change, as the critical change. As I go and change these to, for example, show all the changes, then we can see the column that we saw that it was increased and the length as well. That's being reflected in here. If I go and say, show me back only the critical changes, or show me the additions only, then it goes and shows the addition. So it's an interaction between the model comparison and the change summary screen that it's actually pretty easy to manipulate and to identify. It makes it easier also to identify those changes. I mean, there is much more things that I can actually talk about this, but I already used a lot of the time. We still need to show a lot of good things, so I'm gonna pass it over to you, Ian, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, Dan. Hello everyone, my name is Ian Struthers and thank you very much for joining us on the webinar today. On top of all the amazing stuff that Dan's just shown you, I have the privilege to present another really exciting new feature within Tekla PowerFab 2025, which is our new production planning interface. So let's get started with the persona. We have Matt, who is our production manager, and it's his responsibility to schedule all of the fabrication that needs to be done in their workshop for all the different jobs that the business is currently fabricating. It needs to ensure that the workshop can fulfill all the workload of the jobs being done and make sure that the project deadlines are maintained. The problem he has today is that the current scheduling tools within Tekla PowerFab are cumbersome. They take a lot of setup and a lot of things to be in place to be able to use it effectively. It's never easy to know exactly how much work is required in each department for every work package. So how much needs to be cut versus welded versus painted, for example. And ultimately they resort to doing all the planning manually, whether that's in spreadsheets or on a whiteboard. This becomes out of date as soon as it's published, and as a result this leads to confusion on the shop floor as to what should be done and when. So let's go ahead and have a look at the solution, which is a brand new user-friendly interface with simple drag and drop capacity planning for the work packages we introduced in PowerFab 2024i. We could define the capacities for each department within our workshops, if you have multiple, either specified as a number of hours or by weight. We can calculate the required workload of each work package either using the production codes from the labour timings to an associated estimate, or we can simply input these manually where an estimate might not exist or they might need adjusting somewhat. And the interface supports both a really simple workshop level planning, or this can be taken down into the individual departments for a more advanced kind of granular level of planning. And ultimately what this provides is the ability to ensure that the project schedules can be maintained, that you have sufficient resource. So this may require adding another shift, it may require contracting a subfabricator to do some of the work, but ultimately having a full visibility of your production schedule. Before we go ahead and take a look at the production planner in action, I just want to go through a kind of conceptual overview of how it's configured, just to make the setup of your production planner as easy as possible. So the first thing we must do is define our physical locations in terms of workshops and work areas. Now, workshops you've been able to define since version 2024 when we introduced the new cut list interface, and we've also added work areas which allow you to break a workshop down into smaller zones. And don't forget, you can also create subfabricator workshops as well. Probably the most significant change in how the new planner works is the introduction of the new department layer. Now, departments are how we will create our capacities, and these define the different types of work that go on in your shop. Now, departments can then be mapped to our existing production stations. We felt that capacity planning at the station level was too granular, or at least it was for some, so you're able to kind of group those stations together in departments and have your capacities set at that level. And we add our capacities by defining shifts. Now, the shifts are per department, per workshop and work area, and can be defined as either a number of hours per week or a number of tons per week. And finally, to get this all to work together, on your production control jobs, you must apply your production routes or routes, as I'm sure the majority of you are doing today. And then the introduction of work packages in 2024i will also be kind of the final piece of the jigsaw. So if you're not already using work packages, then that's something you'll have to adopt in order for all this to work. And finally, this has been flagged as a preview feature, and I just want to give a quick overview of why and what that means. So ultimately, we feel that the new production planner is highly beneficial to our users. It's fully functional in terms of it's safe to use in your production environment, just with the caveat that it's not yet feature complete. It doesn't yet do everything that we would like it to do. But we thought rather than hold onto it for another 6 months plus, we might as well release it in its current state so customers can start to get the benefit of it. Having spoken to customers over the years, we feel this is going to be a really highly anticipated development, something that's long sought after, and we hope it's a popular development. We will continue to release additional features as they become available, so we'll continue to work on this, and as quickly as we can, we will introduce the new features. And it's an opportunity for those who wish to be early adopters of the production planner to provide feedback based on their real life experiences. Obviously, we'd like to get everything right first time. That's not always possible. So giving it some real life exposure and feedback from that is going to be really valuable for both ourselves and our customers. And just on the note of giving feedback, there is a link inside the planner itself, which I'll show you shortly. But you can also email your feedback directly to the email address provided there. And with all that said, let's go and have a look. So before we get started, I just want to point you in the direction of the permissions for the new tools. So under our PowerFab Office permissions, within production control, there is a new area for departments and department shifts. So they will be required for anyone who's going to kind of help set up or edit the departments and the capacities. And then within the remote permissions for PowerFab Go, on the Work Packages tab, we have a new View and Update Schedule option. So they will need to be enabled for the relevant users. Also, you may want to be aware within Production Control Company Standards, we have a new Planning Settings tab, which allows you to define the first day of the working week and whether your default view is hours or weight. However, that can be changed within the interface itself. So the configuration of the planner is really important that you get this right. And you'll notice under Maintenance Production Control, we've created a new Fabrication Maintenance submenu. And within here, we have the Department Maintenance, the Old Station Route Setup window, and the Workshop Maintenance. So I'm going to open all three of those at the same time so we can have a quick look at how they all interact with one another. Okay, so we'll start on the workshop maintenance. Now, you've been able to create workshops for a while, and you will probably have at least one default workshop in there. But remember, you can use this to create your different workshops and your subcontractors as well. Now, new to 2025, we can also create work areas. And work areas are kind of smaller areas or zones within your workshop. So you'll notice here within my Hilton workshop, I have a parts work area, I have a paint bay, and then I have two fabrication lines, Fab Line 1 and Fab Line 2. So they are my 4 work areas for my Hilton workshop. Again, a default work area will be created for every workstation that you currently have to make the setup of this a little bit easier. Then if we come on to our departments can then be set up, and bearing in mind departments are the different types of work that happen within your workshop, and there's a link between departments and stations. We can map departments to stations. So you can see here I've got a parts prep department, a fabrication department, and painting. And if I come to my stations, you can see that my cut and processing stations are mapped to my parts prep department. Fit up, welding and inspection stations are mapped to fabrication department. And then my painting station has a one-to-one relationship with my painting department. These can be edited by double clicking and selecting the department there. Okay, so this leaves me to talk about the shifts. Now, the shifts within the department define my weekly capacities. So let me come to my fabrication department. You'll see here for Hilton, I've got multiple shifts. I've got 4 shifts defined. I've got a day shift for line 1 and a day shift for line 2, and both of these have a weekly capacity or output of either 50 tons or 400 hours. And then I've got an additional night shift for both line 1 and line 2, which is an additional 25 tons or 150 hours. Now the active value here determines whether or not that shift is on by default. Okay, so any inactive shifts can be turned on kind of on a week by week basis, but will not be considered as part of the standard capacity on a rolling basis. And I'll show you how they can be turned on at a later stage. And all of these can be defined using the input fields at the bottom. Whilst I have specified my capacities as both weight and hours, you probably won't end up doing that. You'll just do one or the other, I suspect. Okay, so with those set up, the last thing I just want to talk about is how the hours get generated for each work package. So it's really important within your production control job that you are applying your routes or routes, at least at the assembly level. And then if you're not creating work packages, you'll need to start to in order to use the planning. And if I come into a particular work package, you'll see here, because routes have been applied to my my work package assemblies, it's telling me which departments are required in order to complete this work package. So I need some parts prep, some fabrication, and some painting. Now the hours here will get derived automatically from the estimate if there is one linked to the production control job. Furthermore, if you're using production codes, they will kind of become more accurate. Alternatively, if you're not using estimating, then these will be 0, but you can always flip into edit mode and set these to what you like. Equally, if they have been calculated, you can always come in here and override them with either a lump number of hours, or you can use hours per ton, or equally tons per hour if that's appropriate. Any overwritten hours will appear in yellow, and if you want to revert them back to what they were, go back into edit mode, just delete the overwritten values, and they will return to the calculated values. Okay, so we've defined our workshops and work areas. We've defined our departments and linked those to their appropriate stations, and we've defined our capacities in terms of shifts. We've created our work packages on our production control jobs and applied our routes, and now we're ready to start using the planner. So let me go into PowerFab Go, and you will see a new production planner icon on the home page. So we'll go into that. Okay, so by default, it will open up the workshop overview planner, which allows me to schedule work packages at the workshop level. So a quick run through of the overview. Here we can see I have a column for my Hilton workshop and a column for Marshington. I can choose which workshops are shown and hidden using the toggles there. You see I've hidden my subcontractor at the moment. Whether I'm capacity planning by hours or weight, and you can turn on different types of work packages using those toggles. Over on the top right, I can see the date that my calendar is looking at, and how many weeks ahead from that date. I've got the ability to flip between a light mode and a dark mode if that's your preference. And then over on the right hand side, we can see our unscheduled work packages, those that have not yet been added to the planner. And this area can be hidden or shown using the toggle there. So each of these kind of rows here represents a week for the workshop, and I have my capacity loadings there on the left hand side, and it's simply a case of adding the relevant work packages to the relevant workshop for the relevant week. Now, if I want to see what work a particular work package entails, I can select the work package, and down at the bottom here, it's going to show me for each department how many hours or weight, depending on which mode I'm in, is required. From here, it's just a case of dragging and dropping. So I'm just going to move some of these work packages from the unscheduled to my Hilton, and as I'm doing this, we can see that the capacity loadings are being increased, and I think I'll stop there So now we can see we've got kind of this traffic light system where green means I'm within capacity. The yellow indicates that I'm plus or minus 5% of my capacity, and the red indicates I'm over 5%, or sorry, I'm 5% over my capacity. So in this scenario, because I'm over capacity on my painting, what I want to show you is now the next level of planning, which is the department planner. This can be accessed by the clicking the icon alongside the workshop, or we can also access it from the drop down menu there. But let's go into my Hilton workshop, and rather than seeing just a work package as an entire kind of block of work, I can now see for a single workshop, in this case Hilton, each of those work packages is as an individual department, and they can be scheduled independently of each other. So here we can see I'm over capacity for painting. So what I may choose to do is take that work package 1 for job 2501, and I'll say, well, this can be the first priority for the following week. So I can drop that down a week, and that takes me back within capacity. Equally, for my parts prep department, I can see I've still got kind of 31 hours worth of parts prep capacity there. So I may do the opposite. I may say, well, the first priority for the next week can be dragged up, and that can be the work package can be started to be worked on at the end of the week. Now, when you do that, what you'll see if I go back to my workshop overview is you'll see that those work packages will appear in both weeks now. So I can see that work package 2 occurs in both this week and the following week. And if I look down at the bottom right there, it shows me how much or which departments are scheduled to which week. And if you can see this icon here, that indicates that work package is split over multiple weeks. Another thing I can do to manage my capacities, you'll notice here that for this week I'm grossly over capacity for my fabrication department. So what I may choose to do using this edit icon here is go in and either edit my capacities for the active shifts, or I can enable some of the inactive shifts. So looking at that there, I may well need to turn on my night shift for both line 1 and line 2. And if we update that now, my capacity will increase to 1100 hours. I'm still marginally over capacity, but I'm within that 5% kind of tolerance. If I want to go the other way of doing it is to come ahead and modify the hours for an active shift. So I say, well, I'm going to get a couple of temporary workers in, so I can increase that by 100 hours, and that will now leave me within capacity. Just going back to the department planner, just to point out that on the unscheduled work packages area, you'll notice that we're no longer scheduling an entire work package, but we're independently scheduling the individual departments within that work package. So if I come down a bit further, so I've got some space, rather than just dropping on work package 3, I'm going to schedule my parts prep and my fabrication. Now you see here for fabrication, because I've got 2 work areas at Hilton, I've got line 1 and line 2, I can choose which location that's going to go into. I can move them over. I'll give an example of that in a moment. But just to make you aware that when you're scheduling from this view, you're doing it a department at a time. So I have an example here whereby I'm over capacity, or sorry, under capacity at one work area, and over capacity at another. So it could just be a case of saying, well, I'm going to take these 300 hours over to line 1, and I'll take these 136 hours over to line 2, and that's going to balance me up nicely. So it's just the department planner gives you a more granular level of planning. So let's quickly just go back to the workshop overview again. A couple of things I just want to mention. Firstly, the work package has a sub-menu here, which allows you to open up the work package details, but we can also reschedule and unschedule, maybe if the drag and drop isn't working particularly well on your device, if you're using a tablet. We can also release or unrelease a work package and place it on hold. The work packages are color coded by job, so every work package within a job will have the same color. Hopefully this will help you kind of identify how an individual job has been scheduled. And finally, just want to mention that up here where it says preview feature, this will open up a new email to the feedback email address. I'm sure you can tell from my voice how excited I'm about this feature, how passionate I am. It's been a long time coming, and we want this to be as usable and as helpful to our customers as possible. So please feel free to provide any feedback. Positive feedback is always good. Constructive feedback is going to help us make this a better tool. We will continue to add additional features to this in the coming months. But yeah, as much feedback as possible is going to help us make this the best tool it can possibly be. So we look forward to receiving that from you. And that's all I'm going to show you on the planner. So thank you very much, and we'll go back to the slides. Thank you. Okay, thank you. As with all versions of Tekla PowerFab, alongside the major features that we develop, we like to also deliver some small general improvements based on our customer feedback. So I'll just give a quick run through those. The first of which is the ability to now import a partial quantity of an assembly from Tekla Structures and then import the remainder in a subsequent import. Previously, if you had 8 identical columns within a model and you did the export, you would always get the full 8 because it was based on the drawing quantity rather than the selected quantity. But that has now been resolved, and equally, there's no longer a need for the fabrication drawing to be created in order to be able to make the export. So if you decide to create an export into PowerFab before the drawings have been created, then that will now work. Quick caveat to that: this will require the new export within the Tekla Structures 2025 version. We now have the ability to set a series of purchase order standards against our vendors and suppliers. So you'll see this new supplier PO standards button within the address book for your vendors, and what this allows you to do is preset some of the more common options within a purchase order detail. So things like the purchase order groups, the method of delivery, payment terms, and tax, and all that stuff. We now have the ability to define centralized default directories. So what we know in the past that customers have struggled with making sure that everyone has the same default directories defined, and now with this new development, you can create like a master set of default directories and roll these out to all your users. We've introduced a new material links button in inventory. So the material links has been within production control for a while now. It's been a popular feature and been requested by several people to have it in inventory. So what this means is we can quickly identify what purchase order something's on or what cut list a piece of inventory is on, and go directly to those kind of external items from that one place. We've added the ability to specify a maximum length on your trailers within your load settings, so for when you're shipping material. And what this max length does is anything on the load that exceeds that max length will flag a warning and prevent you from shipping the load, much as it does today if the total weight of the load exceeds the weight capacity. We can now record the workshop and work area when we're doing our piece tracking. So as stuff is being recorded in the shop, we can specify which workshop and which work area it was processed in for an extra layer of traceability. Another popular one, I'm sure, the ability to override the scrap tolerance when either processing a cut list or performing a take from stock. Historically, if something was over the scrap length, it went back into inventory. If something was under, it would be automatically kind of removed. The operator now has the ability to override that if they would like to kind of change the logic that's being deployed. And finally, we've had a Steel XML export within requisitions for quite some time now, but we've also added that into the purchase order export. That's something that we heard from our customers would be useful, and that has now been included in 2025.
Okay, so that concludes our Tekla PowerFab 2025 What's New webinar. Please be reminded that you'll be able to download you're currently able to download the beta version at download.tekla.com. The general release is scheduled for Wednesday, March 12th. And again, you can get that at download.tekla.com. As always, reach out to support@tekla.com/tekla-powerfab for any support needs. And feel free to reach out about joining the Tekla user feedback program in the future. And finally, you'll be able to give us your feedback via a feedback poll after the webinar. So with that, I say thank you. This is one of our best versions ever, so please go ahead and download it, and thank you for joining us.